TCI is brought to you by TaylorMade Stallion Unbridled Song, producing top songs year after year, including 13 Grade 1 winners. Visit unbridledsong.com.
Welcome back to TCI, your inside track to the Breeders' Cup. I'm John Siegel alongside Joel Cunningham. We're going to jump right into this week's show because, Joel, we have a top 5 that we promised from last week.
3-year-old fillies, John, for the Ladies Classic division. We're not looking at sprinters. We just want to try to identify, 5 3-year-old fillies that could project to that Ladies Classic at the end of the year. We know Royal Delta won the race last year at 3, but prior to that, it was back to 2004 with the Shadow winning. So usually it's a race that the 4-year-olds have a big edge in. Now coming off the Mother Goose, let's take a look at the top 5 3-year-old fillies.
Let's jump right in there. Let's start off at number 5, Joel. We're going to talk about a horse that was the runner-up in the Hollywood Oaks. That's Eden's Moon. Disappointing in the Kentucky Oaks, but I see you got her in at number 5.
She was disappointing. I thought we'd see a better performance in there. Bob Baffert questioned whether or not she liked the track, but I think in reality, this filly, to run her best race, she needs to be more forwardly placed, and I think we saw that this past weekend in the Hollywood Oaks, John. We talked about the Mother Goose. Hollywood Oaks also featured a very good field in terms of, top-heavy 3-year-olds with the future. So the fact that she was able to come back there and just get beat in the Hollywood Oaks, here's a filly that, again, the Breeders' Cup's in California. I could see her developing and becoming a big-time contender in that Ladies Classic division. And quite honestly, a lot of 3-year-old fillies are injured right now. They're not working, or My Miss Aurelia is not quite back, for example. So I think right now to have her in the top 5, she is a Grade 1 winner, so she's in the 5 spot.
All right, let's go to number 4. I see a filly very consistent. You got Grace Hall in that spot.
Yeah, she's another filly. As a 2-year-old, Grade 1 winner. I loved her in the juvenile fillies, John, but she got beat in a relatively slow race that day. And quite honestly, when you've expected her to break through, she's been disappointing. So Grace Hall, she's consistent. Her Oaks performance last time out was a good performance, but I need to see her get faster to, sort of follow that reputation she had as a 2-year-old, so that at the end of the year, she can really be a filly that, again, can take on these older mares. So right now I have her in the 4 spot. She needs to prove a little more.
All right, at number 3, we have a filly that we thought was poised for a breakout performance. She ran huge, of course, in the Mother Goose, lands her to number 3 spot.
Well, that track at Belmont Park, first of all, I don't think the pace was that taxing on contested. Believe You Can broke slowly, John, but the way the track was playing, you did not want to be on the inside part of it, and I think you saw that was so impressive. The fact that she was able to circle the field along with the gray filly, Disposable Pleasure, that also ran a good race in there. But so impressive as a filly, John, that we've just been waiting to break through. She has a tremendous pedigree. The thing I question about her is I think she's going to have a good second half of the year, but how far does she want to go? And when you look back at when she ran against Grace Hall at 1 1/8 at Gulfstream, around 2 turns, she was well beaten. So she needs to keep developing, showing that she can be that type of filly that, come November, she'll go 1 1/8 and be able to challenge the older mares.
All right, Joel, at number 2, we have a horse that went from maiden winner to graded stakes winner. Of course, we're talking about Potesta, winner of the Hollywood Oaks last time out.
Yeah, Potesta, John, just 3 lifetime starts for this filly, and she had a lot of buzz before she even broke her maiden. I heard a lot from the clockers there in California that this filly was for real. Finally stretched out on the synthetic, broke her maiden, comes back in a Grade 2, but against a Grade 1 mare like Eden's Moon, and beats her on the wire, was able to come back on her that last 100 yards or so. So I just think Potesta, as lightly raced she is, has a big future. And the fact that she's number 2 shows what I think of her talent and her upside, John, there in California. But it also shows you how wide open this division is.
All right, let's talk now at number 1. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a little surprised you have this filly in at number 1. I guess you're going off of the Kentucky Oaks, but of course I'm talking about Believe You Can.
Yeah, sure. You have to have your Oaks winner in there at number 1, especially how wide open the division is. She broke poorly, like I said, in the Mother Goose, John, and I don't think that was her sort of race. So 1 turn, 1 1/16 race. I really think this filly wants to go 2 turns and a little further to 1 1/8. We saw her, run down Broadway's Alibi, a very classy filly, John, that's on the sidelines in that Oaks. She ran fast that day, got a good speed figure. So I think Believe You Can. Right now, you have to keep her in the number 1 spot, but she did disappoint in the Mother Goose.
All right, Joel, I'll give you that one. Let's move on now. We got a lot of races to talk about, including a winning in at Hollywood Park. Of course, we're talking about the Shoemaker Mile.
Right.
Joel, there are some really good turf milers in here. And I'm looking at Little Mike, a horse that won a Grade 1 last time out at Churchill Downs.
Little Mike is one of your shippers in here, John. They're trying to get that free winning you're in bid and that all-expense-paid trip to California. Make him a mile contender. I talked to Dale Romans a couple weeks ago at Churchill, John, and Little Mike is on top of his game right now. We know speed is his game. Be interesting to see how he's going to shake out. He should like those California turf courses as firm as they typically are, but there is other speed in the race. Liberian Freighter is a very fast local horse, very classy, and I just think it's a good group all around. But the reality is with these American horses is, you know, they might earn their berth into the Breeders' Cup, but they always look over their shoulder at the end of the year to those Europeans and all those Breeders' Cup turf races. So be interested to see how good this group can be, you know, this week in Hollywood Park, and who's going to punch their ticket. You know, Mr. Commons is a horse that might be your favorite again, but he's burned a lot of money in his last 2 starts. We've been wanting to see him break through. He needs more speed to set up his late kick. I want to see what Mr. Commons could do in here with legitimate speed like Little Mike setting it on the front end along with Liberian Freighter.
All right, let's stay at Hollywood Park. There's another grade 1. It's the Triple Bend. Joel, we see the Factor back in here. This is his first race back from the Dubai World Cup.
I guess there is no more Dubai bounce anymore to worry about. I mean, just look at what Royal Delta did. Look at what Game On Dude did for Bob Baffert. Well, Bob Baffert now bringing back the Factor. I don't think he liked that Tapeta surface, that straightaway run. I don't think that, you know, it's his game at all, John. I really think that he wants to blitz it on the front end on real American dirt courses. So be interested to see how he handles other speed in this race. And when I look at Common at the top, he's a grade 1 winner at Hollywood, but he has that speed coming out 5 furlong turf sprint. You look at those early fractions he was on. I think he can give the Factor a little problem early on, and we've seen the Factor disappoint plenty in the past. So at a short price in here, watch out. The Factor, you know, is going to get some contested speed. How good is Smiling Tiger? You know, he's 3 for 3 on this track, and when he won this race a year ago, I really put him at the front of that sprint division. And, you know, he sort of disappointed at the end of the year and got injured. Is Smiling Tiger as good now as a 5-year-old? Was that race last time out to where, you know, he was a close charging third in the True North on Belmont Day? Was that a good race, or was he just sucking up there at the end? Be interesting to see if Smiling Tiger can break through in this race, or if he's just not quite as good as he used to be.
All right, let's move now, Joel, and go to Iowa. That's right, I said Iowa. We got some great racing.
Won't say that very often.
We got some great racing at Prairie Meadows in the Iowa Derby. We see the return of Hansen.
Yeah, Hansen prepping for the Travers in here. His first race back since the Derby. You know, he was a little rank in the Derby into the first turn. Quite honestly, that's not the way he wants to run. He's a horse that you kind of have to give him his head, hope he settles himself within the race. So he had no shot in the Derby, and he was actually really washy before the race. So I'm going to give him a pass in the Derby. He's a high-quality colt. They want to keep him around 2 turns. It's probably why they figured they run him in the Iowa Derby instead of the Dwyer, which is around 1 turn in mile and a 16th. He'd have been the favorite in either race. He'll be odds on in here, breaking from the rail. Will show his normal speed. I expect him to win, and this will be a good prep for him. Now going forward, I expect them to run him in the Jim Dandy, a local prep for the Travers at Saratoga.
All right, let's stay at Iowa and let's talk about the Cornhusker, Joel. And here's why. We see Successful Dan. This horse has won 5 races in a row.
Yeah, here's Wise Dan's brother. These Dan's horses, they're at the top of the handicap division right now, John. And I think Successful Dan right now is seen as maybe sort of the second stringer behind Wise Dan, who they wanted to run in the Foster, just got beaten there. Successful Dan, they're instead pointing for this race. This is a rematch of the Ali Sheba on Derby weekend. He's going to face Fort Larned in here. I thought Fort Larned, you know, bounced last time out, you know, in the Foster job, but he has some good speed figures and he's in good form. I think it's between those two, but Successful Dan, I think, is your horse to beat. And what's interesting is we're going to find out these Wise Dan, these Dan horses, Successful Dan, we're eventually going to find out. We know they're good at a mile and 1/8. How good are they going to be in that classic division stretching out to a 1.25 miles?
All right, now just for the racing fans, I'm going to give a mention here for Awesome Jim. Joe, I love this horse. He's a 9-year-old. He won his last race.
9 years old, and you're right, still a graded stakes winner now at 9 off that disqualification last time out in the Berkeley. So, you know, just an awesome horse, John. I'd love to see him run big in here. And he's running this race several times. You know, he's not new to the Prairie Meadows and that night racing, so he might have an edge based on that night racing experience.
All right, thank you, Joel. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you come back next week. We'll recap all these races. We'll give you a top 5 in the sprint division.